This is the commentary for Best of the Left podcast, episode number 511, posted July 24th, 2011. So today I have a story I want to tell that I think will be very informative and will basically teach you the fundamental truth that you need to know to succeed in everything. Now, I'm talking about it in terms of campaigning, like campaigning for social change, activism, that sort of thing, or project, like a big project you want to put together and follow through to a conclusion of some sort. Now, the moral of the story first is learn to say no to good ideas or even really good ideas. And the reason you do this is to allow great ideas to survive. Now, so the personal story I have related to this goes back a few years. I, as many people do, moved to Washington, D.C. I no longer live there, but I moved to D.C. I was going to get involved in the political process, and because, I assumed that no one else in the history of the world had ever thought to, go to the center of power and try to make things right in the way I would, that I would succeed in fixing all the problems in the world. And of course that happened, so I moved away once that project was done. But before I fixed the world, I went and was very ignorant and, naive to a certain extent about a lot of things. And so the first place I lived in DC just happened to be the spare bedroom of a guy who is the executive director of a climate change nonprofit organization. I later ended up working for that organization, and that is a completely different story. So I was just living there. I had no idea what exactly a climate change nonprofit organization did, and he called himself an organizer. Besides being the executive director, this is his official title. He gave his job description. His title was organizer. I was like, "What is an organizer?" I had to ask him one day, and he told me he organizes grassroots, otherwise known as individuals, grassroots pressure to build political pressure to put on politicians to get politicians to pass legislation that makes the world a better place for everybody. That's the idea. In his case, it was focused on climate change. So I had this kicking around in my head, and I went to the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. I'm new in DC. I found out that they have free shows once a week. I think it might be Mondays, but check your local listings. And so I go, and it's beautiful, and the show's great. And I'm looking around as any environmentally conscious person would do. I saw hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of incandescent light bulbs lighting up the building, and thought, well, that looks nice, but it seems kind of wasteful. Like, it's the performing arts, John F. Kennedy, like probably a bunch of progressive guys running this building. Like, why can't we get some more energy efficient light bulbs in here? And that was the spark of an idea. I thought, well, wait a second. I've been hearing this analogy recently about climate change and clean energy. And what people have been saying is that what we need is an Apollo project for clean energy. We need to set an absurdly high goal, such as reaching the moon of clean energy. And once we have set that goal, we as Americans will get our dander up and be like, man, we're going to get there, or we'll be mad. I don't whatever Americans do when they get excited. And so if we set an absurdly high goal, then we can have a clean energy revolution in this country, and it'll spread across the world, and we'll all save ourselves from climate change. And so I thought, the messaging for this is too perfect. What if we run a campaign to get the Kennedy Center to switch to more energy efficient light bulbs, and use that as a pivot point for the media and messaging to come together and say, in honor of John F. Kennedy's legacy, we need an Apollo project for clean energy and to reduce the amount of energy we use. Like, it's genius, right? I'm just like, oh man, I can feel the buzz happening already. Like, what a great campaign to run. or maybe not. But anyways, I got really excited about it. I thought it was a great idea, one of the best ideas I'd ever had. And I was so excited, I was going to go tell this guy who runs the climate change nonprofit all about it. And this is several years ago. I don't remember why exactly I didn't tell him about it, but I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't. I was saved from displaying the level of my ignorance by not telling them about it. And I think probably what happened was I learned more about what his organization did. The campaign that they were working on was so far above the little PR campaign that I had in mind that it would have been sad in comparison, basically. There were strategically targeting grassroots pressure on particular politicians in the state house to get them to vote on landmark legislation, which would have a concrete impact on changing the energy dynamic in the state. Like, you hear what I'm saying? Like, you see how that compares to, let's just get a media PR shot of the JFK Center to get some publicity and some feel-good vibes. Like, it doesn't really measure up. So go back to the moral, you have to learn to say no to good ideas, or even really good ideas. Not that I'm saying my idea was all that super good now in retrospect, in favor of great ideas. And so if I had brought that idea to him, he would have turned it down. And he would have said, that may even be a good idea, but we don't have infinite resources. It's only a good idea in a vacuum. It's a good idea if nothing was being done whatsoever. That's a good starting point. It's a good idea if there were infinite resources that we could dedicate. That could be one thing we do. But we're not in a vacuum. Things are being done, and we don't have infinite resources. So we need to focus the resources we have on what we're able to do. Now, fast forward to the present. I'm personally now, I run this show, and I'm working on other projects in the meantime, all related to progressive media, and will all integrate with the show eventually. So these three projects I'm working on in my mind are absolutely supercharging the way progressive media can get disseminated through social media networks on the web right now. And so listeners of the show are familiar with this concept. I've now made all of the clips that I put into the show. I've made them available individually and integrated social media with the website, and encouraged everyone that once you hear a show, you take what you like and you send that out to your networks. And by doing this, and by hundreds or thousands of people taking part in this, we can disseminate more progressive media to more and more thousands, and hopefully more in the long run, thousands and thousands of people, which is great. Everyone approves of that. I also have an idea that I'm working on very actively to downright revolutionize the way progressive media gets funded. That is months down the road and not nearly ready to be talked about, but I just want to mention it as something that's on the board. And this idea that I just announced is just the seed of an idea right now that I want other people to kind of tackle, is an idea to kind of change and reorganize the way progressive messaging is done, to organize something that is currently completely disorganized. So I have these three kind of big projects that kicking around, and what is similar about all of them is that I've said no to good ideas along the way. Good ideas have had to be set aside in favor of great ideas. And I've seen it happen in my personal life, in my personal media world that I control, and I also saw it firsthand, and this is where I learned it, was working at that climate change nonprofit. Because there are so many good ideas out there for how to solve the climate crisis, and you can only do so much. So you have to pick the best expenditure for your limited resources. And that's what I saw them do over and over again. So take this to heart in whatever way you see fit, in whatever aspect of your life that you're trying to make change. You have great ideas that you want to move forward on. Just remember to focus. Focus on the absolute best, most impactful thing you can be doing, and that's where you should put your energy. So those are my stories. That is my piece of advice. I did not come up with it on my own. I just added my own little flavor to it, and I promise you, it is the path to success in, as I say, every facet of life. Thanks for listening.